Welcome to Kicking It with Sensei and another Female Warrior Week. And today we're joined by Diedra Cole, author, martial artist, and former police detective, and a long list of other things, I'm sure, too. And you're very welcome, Diedra. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sensei Emmett. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, sitting here doing this interview with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm grateful.
Excellent. And can you tell the audience how you first got started in martial arts? What first drew you to martial arts as a young girl?
Oh, sure. So I first got started, I was around 8 years old, and it was in my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I was born and raised. And how it all started was when I was a young girl. I was a tomboy, and I had two brothers that were close in age, one a little bit younger and one a little bit older. And on the weekends, on Saturdays, my mom would take us to the theater downtown and drop us off and let us just hang out there all day and watch all these martial arts movies, right? And that was during the 1970s, the early part of 1970s. And we would watch the movies, and we'd go home and we would try to mimic all the moves on the flying guillotine. I'm surprised we didn't kill each other, but we'd go home and try it out. And so one day, my father came home from work, and he said that he had a friend of his at his job that had started taking some real karate lessons at the YMCA, and he asked if we'd like to go. And so we were so excited. And so then he took us, to our first lesson, and the rest has been history, and it's just something that I've always loved and hung in there. Yeah. And I was 16 years old when I got my first Dan black belt.
Awesome. And you've competed a lot too throughout your life, from a young age right up to very recently.
Yeah. I started competing. My first tournament, I probably was about maybe around 10-ish or somewhere around there. And and the first tournament was, it was an eye opener for me. I was fighting at that time, we were in the Pee Wee division, so all the girls and boys were mixed in there together. And I got the wind kicked out of me by a boy. Yeah. And it just drove me to go back to the dojo even and train harder, to learn how to really, get the hang of that tournament thing. And it eventually turned out to be pretty good. It was something that I excelled in, and I did a lot of competing locally, regionally, and some national tournaments even. And and that was 40 some odd years ago when I started doing that. And yeah, it's been a blessing.
Excellent. That first competition could be an eye opener for everyone.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye opener.
I remember my first competition. I was so hyped about it. And the fight lasted less than 3 seconds. I walked straight into a roundhouse kick to the side of the head, and the fight was over. And I was determined I was going to beat that guy in the future. I never seen him again until about 20 years later.
Oh, wow.
I was teaching a class, and he came in to join the class, and they hadn't trained in 20 years. And I had to get over the ego a little bit and not to beat him up joining the club. But
right.
If it hadn't been for him, maybe I wouldn't have been there. So it was.
Yeah.
It was, I suppose.
Something. And it's so funny because the young man or the boy at the time that kicked me and knocked the wind out of my stomach, knocked the wind out of me. And he went on later on to become like a world kickboxing champion or something like that. But yeah, if it wasn't for that incident, I almost want to say too, I don't know if I still, because it definitely pushed me back into the dojo to train extremely hard and to make sure that didn't happen again.
Yeah.
So it was all relative and necessary.
Yeah. And would you have a favorite aspect of training? Would be sparring or weapons or forms?
Okay, so that has evolved too over time. In the beginning, for many years, it was sparring. Yeah. It was a way for me to release my frustrations and my anxieties, and we did a lot of sparring in my dojo coming up, and it was mostly me sparring. It seems like there were some girls that would come around, but they didn't usually stay as long. So it would mostly be me sparring with boys and young adult men, and then as I got older, men or whatever. So it gave me an edge. And so fighting was always my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
And then probably around maybe around my 30s or somewhere around there, or late 20s or 30s, I really started enjoying the bow staff. So
Yeah.
that is probably my favorite thing to do now. I mean, it's like, it feels very natural. It comes very, very naturally for me to do the bow staff, and here, lately even the blade, the knives. So yes, kind of like evolving. It's like now, I guess, as you get more mature in life, it's like now fighting out. What I enjoyed sparring, and it was the competition part that I really liked because I was competitive. But now I think more about survival. I think
Yeah.
about ways to teach other women and to help other people, and how to end a fight really quickly in the event I ever have to get into one. I don't want to be in a 2-minute sparring round or thing. I want it to be over like in seconds. So I'm trying to, use anything and everything as a weapon. And so it's like a whole different mindset now. And probably some of that came too from as life happened, as I did, as you mentioned, become a police officer and a police detective, and being in the streets and seeing just the real world, and how violent things can get and how real things can get, and just being prepared.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent. And as you mentioned, the police department, I know you studied was it criminal justice at college,
Mm-hmm.
and went on then and joined the City of Milwaukee Police Department.
Yes, sir.
And worked as a detective there. And do you think your martial arts training gave you a lot of edge in that job and kind of helped you along in it? Do you think it had an effect on your work?
Undoubtedly, it did. Undoubtedly. Even from the time when I first went into the police academy for the training, for the conditioning and the preparing for it, because I was, already in shape and prepared. And the way that we trained in our dojo was kind of quasi-military anyway, even as a kid. So I was getting that instilled into me, and didn't even realize that later on in life, it would be something that would come in handy to help me to be mentally, not just physically prepared, but to be mentally prepared too, to be, keen on my awareness, and, and to have that, what do you call it? The strong will and the determination to not give up and to not quit, because there were a lot of mental challenges and a lot of, situational things that, I mean, if you're not mentally prepared or, socially developed and all those things, I mean, it could have been, really, really difficult. But because I did have that training, and fortunately, another thing that I had working in my favor was my instructor was also a law enforcement officer. So he was a police officer, and a lot of things that, he would, teach us and, share with us, even as children and young teenagers. He would take us to the range, teach us how to operate the, firearms and, different things like that, take us and teach us how to, I mean, he was a great mentor, so he placed that seed to where it definitely was something that would help me along the journey of my life, and especially going into the police department. So yes, it definitely helped me a lot. Yes.
Excellent. And do you think training has changed for women from when you first started until now? Do you think women in martial arts has changed?
I do. And I think one of the greatest things about the change is that there are more women doing it now. There are so many women that are involved in martial arts now, in so many different styles and so many different, places around the world, to see women that are enjoying it and that are, not just learning it, but then turning around and teaching. And, women are just, to me, I think some of the most phenomenal, teachers, because, we have a different way of, even like with the same within police work. When you put a woman's touch on it, you can, we can de-escalate situations, but at the same time, when we need to, rev it up and, bring on the heat, we can do that too.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like it seems like to be a movement kind of now, with the, warrior women and, the survivors and empowerment. So I didn't see that to the degree that I do now. Growing up, I didn't see that. I saw it a little bit and it was so rare, but to see it now where it's like common, it's getting to be a common everyday thing. Yeah, it's definitely changed and evolved. And it's just a wonderful thing to see that.
Excellent. And on your martial arts journey, do you feel that as a woman you faced different challenges, and especially as an African American woman,
Oh,
do you
God.
think that posed challenges that your male counterparts didn't face?
Yeah, I do. Because like you said, we have the woman aspect of it. Then we have the martial arts aspect of it, the woman aspect of it, and then the woman of color aspect of it. So, those are, three different, dynamics that, quite honestly, not everybody has always been so willing to, or even still to accept, because they have a picture in their mind, or they have a preconceived notion of what a martial artist should be like, or what a martial artist should look like, or whatever the case might be. But that's just because I believe a lack of knowledge and understanding, because women have been warriors from the beginning of time, but it just hasn't been, publicized, or, we haven't seen it like we're seeing it now. So I think it's still new to some people. And that's one of the main reasons why I like to use my platform to uplift women and to expose women and to show the world that, yeah, not only are we women martial artists, but they're, women of color, women of different, races, Black women, that we love that too. It's like, yeah. And I think that, we still have a long ways to go, unfortunately, because of the small mindsets of some people, and because of all the racial divide and tension in the world, or whatever. But I don't let that stop me. Would I let that do it? Used to bother me a lot, because I felt like it was so unfair. But now I don't feel like that anymore. I don't feel so bothered by it to where it angers me. Now it just fuels me, and it motivates me to use whatever platform that I have, whenever I'm given a platform, to lift other women up, and to inspire other women, and to use my life story, even in the book that I talk about some of the vulnerable things that, happened to me, like, sexual assault, or, just, being in abusive relationships, or overcoming, anxiety and depression, different things like that, that people don't, feel comfortable talking about. But I think it's necessary and relative to tell women that you can use this sport, or this art, or this gift, to overcome so much, and to build your confidence, and to find that warrior that we all have inside of us, and to bring it out, and to just really realize just how fierce you were all along, as opposed to how you look around everywhere to try to find acceptance from other people, or for people to accept what you do, or to accept, your gifts and your talents, or whatever. We don't have to look for that, because we already have that on the inside of us. And once we realize that we have it, and then it starts to come out, and then the whole world can be blessed by all the different gifts and talents that we were sitting on, or that we were afraid to showcase, or whatever, because we didn't have the confidence to do it. So I just believe that that's been the biggest part of my life journey, is to learn that I am enough. I have a warrior inside of me. There have been a lot of things and a lot of challenges that I've had to face, but they never did they come to knock me out. They just came to make me stronger, so that I could then in turn take what I've learned and what I've been blessed with, and give it to somebody else, to share with somebody else, and to, each one teach one, that kind of thing. So yeah.
And
So we use
speaking
it
of,
as a tool, as a motivator.
yeah. And speaking of the warrior on side, you were also inducted into the Ancient Alpha Warrior Hall of Fame
Oh yeah.
a few
Yes,
years
sir.
back. And what was that like? Was it
Oh my goodness, that
just
was so incredible, and for so many reasons. Because I worked so hard to do, to become a developed martial artist. I really, I've not been given anything. I've earned what I have. I've trained for years. I didn't stop. I didn't quit. I continued to go on, and to now be in the position to be recognized for, it's a wonderful thing, because being inducted into the BKF Ancient Alpha Warrior Martial Arts Hall of Fame was phenomenal, because for one reason, my instructor, Mr. Steve Muhammad, who actually is on my t-shirt here, and he is such an icon and a legend, a living legend. And he's paved the way for so many martial artists, especially African-American martial artists in the tournament competition world and just the martial arts world. And to be able to now be a student of his now for the past several years, it's just been like a dream come true. And because, you know, I have this connection with him, somebody who I, you know, idolize, well, I won't say idolize, but somebody who I really looked up to, you know, coming up, you know, to see him on the, finally on the big screen, to see somebody that reflected, you know what I mean? Because it's all about, you know, representation, and to see somebody that looks like my environment on such an iconic film like Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee was just like so incredible. And to now be his student and to be part of his connection or his circle of you know, wonderful martial artists, and to be included with so many other wonderful martial artists on that day as a Hall of Famer was just, yeah, I can't even put it into words. It was such an incredible, surreal experience for me. It was. Yes, indeed.
Excellent. Excellent. The fastest hands in the world, but
right out of Bruce Lee's mouth. Yeah,
Bruce Lee, that's unbelievable.
Isn't that unbelievable that Bruce Lee would study him and come to the tournaments to watch him, and they became really good friends. And he had a great relationship with him. Yeah. And to be, like I said, to be able to be his student. And then he also had that same weekend, he also had his very first tournament of his own. It was the Fight Like a God karate tournament hosted by Steve Muhammad. And, you know, to just, and I was chosen by his family to be the arbitrator for the tournament. So I didn't take that responsibility and that role lightly. I felt that that was such a gift, because I felt like, for one, he could have asked anybody in the world to do that. You know, he's a legend, a living legend. This is Steve Muhammad. And this is his very first tournament. And they came to me and asked me, you know, because of my experience and my passion is why they told me they chose me. And I, you know, stepped right up and I said, well, you know, God gave me the grace to do it. And I'm just, that's another memory that I'll be able to take with me and cherish with me for the rest of my life. So it was pretty phenomenal.
Excellent. What do you feel you've got in life out of training in martial arts for so many years? And
okay, sure. I feel like it's taught me discipline, for sure, that I can carry throughout my everyday walk and my everyday life, my personal life, my professional life, everything. That discipline is key, has been key. Resilience, you know, it's helped me to bring out the warrior in me that lets me know that whatever comes, you know, I'll be able to, you know, get through it no matter what. And it's given me just the fundamental basics to know that it's just a part of who I am. It's made me help to develop the warrior that was already inside of me from my ancestors, but it's helped to bring that out. So I think the most that it's done for me would be the discipline, the resilience, and the warrior. It brought it out, you know, so I'm grateful.
And you've also recently published your first book, Glimpses of the Warrior. Yeah. And would you like to give a bit of information on that? And
sure. So here's the book. And I thank you so much for supporting. I hate the whole shipment thing that's going on, but I'll get it to you. This is the Glimpses of the Warrior Within, my journey of discovering I am enough. And what I did, I had been writing over the years. I had been journaling and writing, you know, some of my experiences. And so when the pandemic hit and I got laid off from my job, and so I had the time finally to just have the creative space to go ahead and finish the book. And what my goal was, and what I believe God purposed me to do with writing the book, was to use martial arts as my my path and my way of facing obstacles in life, being able to withstand, you know, hard times. There have been some good times as well, but there have been some, you know, there have been some challenges in life, and I revert back to my martial arts training to give me the strength and the fortitude to keep fighting, continue to journey along. And so that's what I do with the book. I share some experiences, I share some vulnerable things that have happened, and then I bring it back to how martial arts and my faith were the key to helping me finally get on the right journey and the purpose of my life. So yeah.
I have a lot of respect for anyone who's wrote a book. I've been sitting the last 6 months myself trying, and it seems like I'm no further ahead than I was on day one. But
don't stop. I felt that way too. But I tell you what, there's somebody out there, there's people out there that need to hear your story. They need to read it. They need to be inspired and encouraged by it. So I'm just going to plead that, you don't stop. You continue to, even if it seems like it's, you're not making a lot of progress, just continue on, don't stop. And then once you see the finished work and you can look at the finished product and you realize, hey, you have something out there now that can help other people that, you put your blood and sweat into. So it'll be worth it. So I encourage you, my brother, my warrior brother, to continue on. Don't stop. Get that thing out. It's inside of you. I say everybody has a book inside of them, but it does take some girth to get it out, sometimes, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
Definitely. No.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Would you have had any role models growing up in martial arts? And
Yes. I was blessed to have my role model, my first instructor, Mr. Charles Warren, Judge Warren. He's still a martial artist today. And Mr. Warren was a Vietnam veteran, as was C. Steve Muhammad. Both of them kind of had a very similar path in life. And when he got out of the military, he was in the Air Force. And once he came back home to our hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, over the time when he was in the military, he was training martial arts over in Okinawa, and he was, overseas training. So when he returned back home, he started a karate dojo at the YMCA, and he opened it up, to anybody, to, in our neighborhood, anybody could come and, join and train. And it was something that we had never seen before. An African-American dojo. It was the first one in the state of Wisconsin. And so because he took his gifts and shared them with us, I sit here today, me and so many other people, because of what he did. And so he was a role model in that way, even in, like I said, in law enforcement and life, and, as far as character. And that's another thing that martial arts has, I believe, helped me to develop, just to make sure that I was a person of character, because I believe that character and martial arts should always go hand in hand. Never should they deviate. I think that they are one and the same. If a person is a developed martial artist, they should also be developed in character. So that is something that has, helped me tremendously in developing myself. And he was very, 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 what would I say, influential in helping me along that journey, as being a mentor for somebody to be able to look at and pattern my life after.
Yes. And as a role model now to young women yourself, what advice would you give young girls starting out in martial arts and in life in general?
Okay, sure. And let me back up just a little bit. So he was one of my role models. He was one of my greatest role models, but also I did have two strong parents too that I have to thank. My father, and my mother. I always say, even in my book, I am a perfect combination of the two of them. My he had a warrior spirit and his strength, and the fact that he would put me in martial arts. I wouldn't be in martial arts had he not taken me to that class. So I'm thankful to him. He was a role model for me. And my mother, she was really laid back and quiet, but very strong and resilient in her spirit. And I have that combination from her too. So the perfect combination of the two of them, I have to give credit, as they were role models as well for me. And so to your last question, were you asking me about advice I would give other young girls?
Girls starting out now and in life and in martial arts. And
Sure. Excellent question, Sensei Emmett. What my advice would be to young girls, first of all, I think every young girl should train martial arts. Every young girl. I think it's important for every person even, but for especially every young girl, so that she can develop skills in how to protect herself, because this is a vicious world that we live in now, so that she could learn how to protect herself, and also that she could learn that she is a warrior and that she's fierce, and that she could develop her confidence, and that she could develop, you know, gifts that she doesn't even realize yet that she has. And to see, and she would be so proud how when you just see the, you know, when you see a person, one of my most fond things is to take a student when they first come, they take their very first lesson. And a lot of times they come in and they may not have confidence, or they may not think that they can do the movement or whatever. And to see their, you know, their spirit begin to elevate and to rise when they feel the confidence in that, oh, I can do this. And then they want to come back and continue to learn more and more. And my thing would be to don't quit, you know, take this initial step to start, but make it a goal that you're not going to quit, that you won't ever stop. Sometimes you may have to take a break in life. As women, we may have to take a break and, you know, go to school, or, you know, raise a family, or whatever the case, but don't ever quit, to continue on training and feeding your martial arts, because as you're doing that, you don't realize how much that you're developing yourself. So I think that every young girl should first find a martial arts school to study and do the research, because, you know, you can, you know, not everything is for everybody, but I'm sure there's some sort of art that you could find, or some school that you'll find that you'll feel like, you know, you can gravitate to, and to continue to train hard and don't give up. See yourself, you know, as going all the way to the black belt level, if a belt system is what you do. But even if you don't want to get a black belt in it, even if you just do it to just learn how to, you know, be empowered and to learn how to build confidence, I think every young girl should take martial arts and to study martial arts, because it'll help you in your whole life journey. It will, trust me, it will help you so many ways.
Definitely. Just on that note, now I've actually got a student myself, and for a long time, when I first started teaching, I just wanted to go back to competing. I just did not feel happy teaching. And there was a young girl, she was about 5-year-old when she came into the dojo, so underconfident, just didn't want to be there. And but I'd say about 10 months later, we had a tournament between ourselves and other clubs, and she won everything that she could win, and just confidence was just
off the rooftop, right?
Off the rooftop. But it was just something in her just awoke. But it kind of gave me, it lit the fire in me to start teaching, just seeing that transformation. And knowing that I played a little part in it was kind of a real, it kind of reignited my passion for martial arts and wanting to pass it on. But it was such a pure transformation, just from not wanting to come in the door to wanting to compete with everyone, and just so confident. And
that's awesome. And it's amazing. And I think it's if every parent could, that's watching this interview right now, especially if you have younger children, I think that's the best. It's never too late now. I've seen people start at 80 years old. Seriously, it's never too late. But I think it's a great service to your child to invest in them as early as possible, especially young girls, to do exactly what you just described, to build their confidence, so that when they're confident, they make confident choices in life. You know, they make choices that are healthier because they're confident. They're not looking, like I said, for validation here and there and everywhere. They are more focused, you know, they, you know what I mean? So they are goal driven, and they realize, hey, I can do this, I can do that, I can, there's, the world is, an oyster. I can do whatever I want to do because I have the confidence to do it. So for every parent that's watching, I would just really encourage you to, especially if you're a parent of girls, to find a dojo for your daughter to train in. Or even now we have this, because of COVID, we have this thing now where everybody can, do the Zoom training and the online training or whatever. So, find a dojo, find a school, or find an instructor to get them started early so that it'll be a part of their foundation in life.
Excellent. Before we finish up, if you could just let the audience know where they can find your book online.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Ian, so here's a cover. And it's Glimpses of the Warrior Within, My Journey of Discovering I Am Enough. And how you can find it is you can type in bit.ly, that's bit.ly, bit.ly Glimpses of the Warrior Within, all caps. So it's bit.ly /Glimpses of the Warrior Within. It should pop right up. And it's also available on Amazon.com too.
I'll put links to in the description of the video here as well, so that people can find it. And it was a pleasure meeting you today, Diedra.
Oh my goodness. Pleasure is all mine. Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.